One more thing. The Dallas Mavericks are open to anything, but there's one thing that they should probably do before they do all the other things. And I'll tell you, today's Locked On Mavs, one more thing.
I'm not a doctor, so.
That's it. It's me versus the machine.
I don't know.
Satnam change.
Nice penetrating thrust to the middle.
Hot man, the hot player.
Wait. One more thing.
Fired up.
Yeah, you're still locked on to the Dallas Mavericks, your team every day. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member covering the Mavs for 10 years. Thanks for being an everydayer. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. It's the One More Thing bonus episode of Locked On Mavs. You missed our episode yesterday with Isaac and I talking about if the Mavs go for it, what would make it worth it for them to go for it. But now, Shams Charania drops this report about the Mavericks being open to basically anything. Anthony Davis trades. They're open to trading Klay. They're open to trading D'Angelo Russell, Daniel Gafford, and there's all kinds of things. So we'll break it all down today, and we'll talk about all those different kinds of things. But there's one piece in this that I want to start with right now. The Mavs don't have a GM. They have co-GMs that were interim co-GMs. And the Mavs are at a crossroads with their franchise. They had this one plan, or they had one set where they were like, all right, we're building around Luka. Then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened with that. Did something happen with that? And then the Mavericks were in the finals, and then they were somewhere completely different where they're like, all right, well, now we have Anthony Davis and Kyrie, and we're this win now team, and that's where they were. And then all of a sudden, the Cooper Flagg conversation added a whole different element to this whole thing when they got Cooper Flagg in the draft. And you're like, all right, well, your build is this win now team, and now you got Cooper Flagg, so now you have an actual future, which is great. Like an incredible lifeline this franchise was given. But now what do you do? And so now we've been at this crossroads of like, all right, is this team going to tank? Is this team going to, rebuild? Is this team going to go for it right now? And in all that, Nico Harrison gets fired, right? Makes sense. And now, according to Shams Charania in this piece from ESPN that was dropped earlier today, Patrick Dumont has relied on Michael Finley, Matt Riccardi, the two that are the co-interim GMs of the Dallas Mavericks right now. They've both been in the organization for a little while. Finley, obviously, for a long time, has been under different regimes. Riccardi has been with the Mavericks. He's worked with some other teams as well. Younger guy in the front office that is, wanting to keep moving up and all that. Coach Jason Kidd and minority owner Mark Cuban in his front office core has given Finley and Riccardi the power to lead conversations on the franchise's future. So one of the things a lot of people have been asking is, all right, what's the update on the GM? What's the update on the GM? Well, there hasn't been one. Dennis Lindsey's name has been floated out there a little bit here and there. There's not really been anybody else that's been really floated out as far as names. And it kind of sounds like from this report that they're allowing Finley and Matt Riccardi to make this decision at this crossroads for this franchise. Later, Shams puts in the piece, a GM search is still expected in the offseason, and Finley and Riccardi are expected to be candidates. So here's my thing with this whole thing right now. Before we get into any of the trade rumors, before we get into any of the player stuff, and we'll talk all about the Anthony Davis trade targets tonight on the show, the Mavs need to pick a GM and go for it. And go for like that, whatever that GM decides to do. Because this whole thing right now is a very delicate balance in order to get this right. The Mavs have a massive decision to make, trading Anthony Davis, trading off some of these pieces. Got Cooper Flagg, so you've got the baseline. But how are two guys that are expected to be candidates for the job, basically auditioning to be that GM? Doing the job together, auditioning together, like that to me does not signify a cohesive front for an organization. That is what I'm questioning right now. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. But when you're saying, all right, basically like we have two coaches for this team and both coaches are the interim and they're both vying for this job. It's like the Mavericks being like, all right, we've got D'Angelo Russell and we've got Brandon Williams, we've got Ryan Nembhard. They both have to play together at the same time in order to be the starting point guard next season. There's only going to be one starting point guard next season. Both of them have to play for it. Like, is that going to give the best results for your franchise? And that's where I'm questioning the decision that it seems like Patrick Dumont is making. He's like, all right, we have these co-GMs. Now, maybe there's some checks and balances between the two of them. Having two is better than having just one guy that's like, all right, well, let's just say they put Riccardi in charge and Riccardi is like, all right, well, I'm going to make these decisions because this is where I think they should go. and then they don't hire him, and then what happens, right? Let's say that happens. But to me, I think that is the most interesting thing in all of this, because trading players and doing all that can wait. We can see what happens with all that. But the future of the franchise starts, I think, with the decision on where they go with this next GM. Because you've seen GMs across the league tank a franchise or put a franchise on the map like the Thunder. We've seen crazy things happen across the league. The Knicks hired Leon Rose to be their GM, and it took a little while, but now the Knicks are a relevant franchise again. The Knicks were terrible for so long. A GM can change a lot. And for the Mavericks to go into this crossroads decision with two co-interim GMs that are potentially vying for the job later this offseason, to make these decisions for this franchise, I think is setting yourself up for chaos, I think, which I guess they've already been through. And so we'll see. That's the first thing that caught my eye on this. The next thing that caught my eye, obviously, is that the Mavericks are open to exploring trade markets for Anthony Davis, center Daniel Gafford, guards Klay Thompson, D'Angelo Russell, sources say, according to Shams Charania of the Athletic anymore. Dang, that's been a long time. Of ESPN. This makes sense. And the other thing about this whole piece is that the Mavericks are open to anything, because later in the piece, they also said that the Mavericks have not ruled out the possibility of an extension for Anthony Davis, because he's eligible for this extension on August 6th, at the end of the offseason. 4-year, $275 million max extension on August 6th. He's eligible for that. And the Mavs have not ruled out that possibility. And that possibility takes out trading him, obviously. And so you go, all right, we'll either trade all these pieces, or we'll extend Anthony Davis, or we'll trade some of the pieces and extend Anthony Davis, or they're open to anything right now. And they should be. I think the Mavs should be open to anything. Coming up, I'll talk about a couple more of these pieces in this, what the Mavericks should do in all these decisions, and we'll get into the other rumors in this around Anthony Davis and some of his trade suitors and things like that. I'll talk about that and more coming up. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook, all kinds of things that you can get out in the action. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. Jalen Hurts turning it over again and again and again and again. If you knew that fourth interception was happening, you could have bet on it with FanDuel. You can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. The receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, momentum flips after a turnover, like all of Jalen Hurts' turnovers. You can go check that out. You have all kinds of other things too with the NBA. We've got the games tonight. Heat 1-point favorite at the Magic for the Cup game. The Knicks a 5-point favorite against the Raptors. Those will be interesting games in the East, so you can go check those out. Thunder 15.5-point favorite against the Suns in their Cup game. Wild. Go check out everything you can do with FanDuel. You want to be right in the middle of the action this season. Visit FanDuel.com. Place your live NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, so can you. Also brought to you by our friends over at Mint Mobile. You know, there's no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. Right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All their unlimited plans, 50% off. That means you can lock in 3, 6, even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take your overpriced phone bill and give it the full Scrooge treatment. Humbug. That's what makes it even better. Now, it's so simple to make the switch with Mint. No contracts, no nonsense, just real savings, real quality service. Switching to Mint lets you keep your same coverage for a lower price. The service is fast, super reliable, even on the go. It feels good knowing that you're not overpaying for the other wireless services that are just going to give you the same thing. Turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings by switching to Mint. Shop Mint unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. Limited time offer, upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, $180 for 12 months. Plan required, $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees, initial plan term only. Over 35 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Compatible device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. It's a one more thing bonus episode of Locked On Mavs. We've got the Everydayer Club that just opened up. If you want to pay $5 a month, you can get ad-free shows just like this one. I'll put this one out there, and so you can get that. You can also get access to our Discord if you subscribe to that. We also have our text line. So we have our text line, we have our Everydayers Club. Both of them gets access to the Discord. Text line, you get text straight to your phone. The Everydayers Club, you get ad-free shows. So a bunch of different ways that you can either support the show, get to the show in different ways, ad-free, text to your phone. Check the links in the description of the QR code for different ways to find that. All right, Isaac, let's get into the rest of these rumors. So we talked about the GM search. The Mavs are waiting on that one, and they're letting the co-GMs make that decision, and I think that is an interesting choice, and it does not strike me as something that a functional franchise would do, but we'll see. Now, the rest of these. So Mavs are open to trading Anthony Davis, Daniel Gafford, Klay Thompson, D'Angelo Russell. Open to exploring the trade markets is the verbiage here, which is different than they are trading those players. I want to be clear on that because yesterday we spent the whole show talking about, well, the Mavs are going for it. So what are they doing if they go for it? They're not tanking. And now this comes up and it's like, well, now they're going to trade all these guys. They're just open to exploring the markets. Teams do this all the time. Teams are constantly asking everybody and other teams, what is the trade value for this guy? What would a trade package look like for this guy? All that. What's the trade, trying to gauge the trade value so they know if they have to make a decision, if they have to make some kind of movement happen, they know the options they have in front of them. And in this case, I do think it's good that they still have Finley and Riccardi in place because those two guys have connections across the league, can call these teams up, have been through the Luka Doncic trade, so they know when, they know a bunch of things not to do now, hopefully. But I think it's interesting that they're open to trading all those guys, and it makes sense to me. We've talked about trading Gafford all through the offseason. That's one of the reasons why they signed him to that deal where he got extended, but he could still be traded. Anthony Davis's trade makes a lot of sense to me because of all the different reasons we've talked about all throughout this week and last week. Klay Thompson makes sense because he is, he should be on a contender. The Mavs should do right by him. But also he's going to be, he's 36, and the Mavs are going to move in a different direction. They're going to rebuild if they decide to trade all these guys. And D'Angelo Russell has completely fallen out of Jason Kidd's favor, and so that would make sense if you're going to trade him and do something with him. Klay Thompson also has some more years left on his deal, and the Mavs need to get under the second apron going into next season. So that's another reason why him and Gafford both make sense to trade because they have money for next season. Another thing in this piece is that Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul has met with Mavericks interim coach general managers Michael Finley and Matt Riccardi and requested clarity about whether the franchise wants to extend Davis in the offseason or trade him at the deadline. Then that's the part that says they have not ruled out the possibility of an extension. So the Mavs are open to anything. And even Rich Paul was like, hey, what are you guys doing? And they're like, we're open to anything. And I think publicly the Mavs should be open to anything. I don't think this is a bad approach to float out there. Hey, we're open to trading. We're also open to extending because they got to tell teams, hey, we could just keep this guy. We could just keep this Anthony Davis guy, and we're not desperate to get rid of him. And I don't think they should be desperate to get rid of him. They should see if they can could get anything for him, recoup some of those assets. Because I don't think going for it right now is the best thing under the Cooper Flagg era, because the Mavs don't have picks for the next 4 years. And so I don't think they should outright tank this season. It makes sense for them to, but I don't think they really should, because if they outright tank, then next year, do you trade off too many pieces where you're not going to be good next year? Then you don't have your pick. Then there's just so many complicated things when it comes to this. We talked about yesterday, I like the going for it right now, especially like trying to win now, because you want to keep that culture. You want to keep the culture of winning up. Mavs have vets right now. If all of a sudden you deflate it by losing a bunch of games to end the season, then can you rebuild that winning culture for next season? Is it that simple? And I don't know that it is. I think it takes a little while for some teams. The AD extension. August 6th, he's eligible to sign this extension. $275 million. It would pay him $76 million in his age 37 season. That is a disaster. The Mavs have to be very careful when it comes to that, because that is, his 37-year-old season. We're talking, how many seasons from now? We're talking that 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, like 6 seasons from now. Because a 4-year extension goes, we're talking Cooper Flagg is Cooper Flagg is going to get his max extension at the end of his rookie deal when Anthony Davis is still getting paid that money. That cannot happen. You cannot sign that extension. The Mavs have to not rule out the possibility so that they can show teams, but there is no way you sign this guy to that deal, because he is, injury-wise, just not worth it. He's had 3 pretty major injuries since he's been on the team. He's 32. He's still a good player when he plays, but he is not worth that contract. $76 million in his age 37. He's 32, going to be 33 right now. That one's the one that I look at and go, oh. They also mentioned in this piece, that Trae Young, who sustained an MCL sprain on October 29th, is optimistic about returning to action this month. And you're like, oh. The Hawks are one of the teams that are interested in Anthony Davis. The three teams that he mentioned that we'll talk about tonight, Pistons, Hawks, and Raptors, are interested in Anthony Davis. And then he's like, well, and Trae Young might come back. And you're like, oh, interesting. Last couple things here. Klay Thompson. Teams around the league know Klay Thompson prefers to be part of a contender. That makes sense to me. Klay Thompson has $16 million left this year, $17 million next year. Mavericks could trade him to a contender if somebody else needs some more shooting. The Mavs need more shooting themselves, but it would make sense to move him. And teams are already preparing for conversations with the Mavericks at the deadline. Those trade talks could create significant decisions league-wide. Yeah, of course, that makes sense. The Mavs are probably going to be a seller. Last thing. I sent this to the text line. I thought this was really funny. In this piece, Shams also talks about the Kings, and he said the Kings and first-year general manager Scott Perry are using this season as a patient evaluation campaign, trying to build a gritty culture. A patient evaluation campaign is like, hey, basically we're losing and like we know, like we get it. This is all by design. And the Kings have not built a gritty culture at all. They have built the opposite of that. I had to do their game for game night on Locked On NBA last night. And good Lord, like that team is not, they lost the Pacers. That team is not building a gritty culture. So there you go. There's some of the rumors. That's some of the things that I think about it. We'll talk about the other suitors for Anthony Davis tonight and flesh out an Anthony Davis trade and all those things on the show tonight. So check that out. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. Again, we'll be back. We'll have the post-game show on Friday with me and Slightly. All kinds of stuff. Check the links in the description for different ways to follow the show, the Everydayers Club, and the text line.
Peace out.